Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye, the movie guy, and sitting inside the fish tank is Filmy and Phil.
How we doing, everybody?
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we grab control of our own podcast and do whatever we want as we give it a director's cut.
That's an interesting idea. What would the director's cut of Cinemajaw look like? A lot more Matt Kay, I think.
I was about to say a lot more Rye, the movie guy.
Yeah, it depends on who's directing, I guess. Yeah.
I just want to remind people I'm still on the high from last week that I need no director's cut from Rye, the movie guy, so I would remain the exact same.
You would, absolutely. Especially if it was my director's cut, Phil. You would be the exact same. We are covering, though, an interesting topic this week. We're doing our top 5 films that we think need a little tweaking, a little help, not full-on recasting or a remake. We're talking films that exist, much like Justice League, but got a director's cut and became much, much better.
Or these are our hopes that they would get a director's cut, not our best director's cut. That bears explanation.
Correct. And we're doing this in honor of Justice League, the Snyder Cut.
Right. Yes, which we will be reviewing later in the show.
Besides that, we have a great guest who will be joining us shortly.
Yes, we do. Angie Gaffney is going to be joining us. She's a polymath, somebody who supports the film industry here in Chicago and elsewhere.
I know she's worked over at CineSpace. And how long has it been, Matt, that I've been asking you to get somebody on that's worked over at CineSpace? What would you say? 7 years?
Well, listen, this has been something we've both wanted to do for a very long time. And yeah, maybe 7 years, something like that. And well, here we go. Our foot is in the door somewhat.
Can't wait to talk to Angie. Besides that, we do have more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yes, it is our last week of Eddie Murphy month, so we have another clip, another fact, and something we haven't done in a few episodes. We're bringing back some Hollywood headlines, so look forward to that after the break.
And if we haven't mentioned it enough already, we have a review of Zack Snyder's Justice League, a.k.a. the Snyder Cut.
The Snyder Cut. I like it. There's also a new movie opening up called The French Exit. I was able to catch this one already. It stars Michelle Pfifer and Lucas Hedges. So I thought this is a good time, Matt, for you to take Angie on in Michelle Pfifer, Lucas Hedges movie trivia.
I will be good at half of that, I think.
You don't even know who Lucas Hedges is.
I'm really drawing a blank. Yeah, just... I mean, I know I've heard the name.
He's one of the better actors under the age of 25, Matt. You should know this Lucas Hedges.
Was he in any of the Marvel movies?
No, not yet, but he probably will be at some point. Isn't everybody?
Point. Yeah, Michelle Pfifer is.
This is true. So you would imagine at some point Lucas Hedges will join.
It's only a matter of time, and then he will be firmly on my radar.
So it is a jam-packed jaw, isn't it, Matt?
As always.
Before we get to Angie, we did say it's the last week we're celebrating Eddie Murphy, so let's start there with a fact.
Yes, our final fact. In 1982, Murphy starred in the film 48 Hours alongside Nick Nolte. To promote the movie, Nolte was lined up to host Saturday Night Live. On December 11th, 1982, that was their Christmas episode, but he got sick, and so he couldn't come in, and they had Murphy, who at that point is obviously a veteran of the show. He stepped in, opening the show with the phrase, "Live from New York, it's the Eddie Murphy Show." And he became the only SNL cast member to host while he was in the cast, an actual member of the lineup.
And no one else had done that before. Still to this day. It's an interesting fact. I know that one. He's the only cast member to actually also be the host.
That's surprising. I mean, it's been decades, right, since that happened. You would imagine the star maker that Saturday Night Live is
Well,
this
It
would have
seems like
happened
a
again.
conflict of interest from a therapeutic standpoint.
Right. And we should stay. I mean, cast members come back and host, but this
Right.
was Eddie Murphy still a cast member and being the
Understood.
host at the same time, which is
Right.
kind of remarkable.
But still, I mean, there have been people that were still on the cast who have had movies in the theater. So
True. But not probably as big of a star, I guess, at the moment.
Also,
are.
there's
Fair
like a lot of circumstantial. Nick Nolte got sick. It wasn't supposed to be him. He was a sub.
yeah, Nick Nolte got sick. Everybody couldn't do the show that night. Convenient.
Good stuff. All right. Without further ado, we bring in our guest, Angie Gaffney. Like I said, has worked at Cinespace, among many other things. She has tons of producing credits. Angie, welcome to Cinemajaw.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me remotely.
You are calling in from California, correct?
I am a block and a half from the beach and
nice.
an hour and a half north of LA.
Sweet.
And this is a recent move?
Well, a fun story. It's not a move. I'm still technically loud and proud Chicago. That's where I live. But my husband and I decided we were going to steal my parents' Airstream in Colorado and embark on like a 3-month remote working road trip adventure. So we are currently here temporarily at an Airbnb.
That's amazing. That's like a life dream, and you're just living it.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, it's even more amazing that my parents have an Airstream that they let us borrow. / it required a little bit of like enthusiastic convincing that we would not harm their child as we drove across the country. But I think we got it. We got it there.
So, Angie, earlier today, I was perusing your website, angiegaffney.com, and underneath there's this beautiful line that states this: championing leadership, storytelling, and well-being in the creative industries through speaking, coaching, and film producing. Explain it to me.
Unpack that for us.
Yes.
Unpack that. Woof. Well, I've been in the indie film community in Chicago for over a decade, and mostly like hands-on on the ground production was where I started. And I think I like ran the show in movies. There's a first assistant director. Not sure if y'all are familiar with that position.
It's my only IMDb credit as first assistant director. True story. Look me up.
I love it. I will look you up, Matt. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But for those who don't know, it's kind of the stage manager of the film. They like run the set. They have the schedule. They know all the logistics. So I did that for my first feature when I was 19 and in college, and kind of worked up from there. But I shortly realized that as I was working in the film industry, that I was going to either like work in the film industry on set and live until I was 40 and then die, or I was gonna like extend my life somehow magically by combining the film industry with something else. So I'm a big proponent of like having your cake and eating it too in the industry, working hard, but also not sacrificing yourself for the sake of a shot or for the sake of long hours, etc. So I'm on a personal mission to make the film industry more inclusive, but also like healthier. Like no one needs 16-hour workdays on their feet. And that's just expected. So, I mean, I'll go on my soapbox about it probably a few different times, but that's the core of it. And I think so much that telling good stories and taking care of yourself, like well-being, are so intertwined. Creativity blossoms either when you're like really hitting the shit or you're really taking care of yourself. And most people I know want to be in the latter half of that.
So what does that look like? I mean, because I've been behind the scenes, at least in a limited capacity, and you're right, it can be brutal. How do you help a production? Do you come in ahead of time? What does that look like? Like how you make it better?
I think it's a lot about the culture. I mean, I as a producer, like I have like a no pizza rule unless it's specifically asked for. A lot of it is like, how are we feeding people? Are you going to are you going to pay the extra $2 per person to have a hot lunch that's not just like macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, lots of pasta.
So much pasta. And then, you know, an hour or so after we eat a lot of pasta, we all know how that feels. And we all know how like non-productive that is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's things like childcare, making sure that the folks who work in the film industry have those things. It's like just like being a good human, kindness, shifts. So folks aren't working overtime if they don't want to, or if they have to get home, things like that.
Man, where were you? You're like an angel on the set.
I know it's everything I needed and didn't have. So I think that's partially why it's unfolded in this way.
So I was also looking at some of your producing credits, and one of them was for Signature Move, a film that was directed by Jennifer Reeder, who we've had on the show. Tell us about that experience, because that's such a local Chicago movie that's still playing today. I think it's Music Box is doing like a Music Box Direct part of their at-home series this week or next week. It's coming up again. So it's a movie that is, you know, pretty popular, especially around Chicago.
Yeah, but that was an awesome experience. So I was a co-producer on that. I worked with Eugene and Brian and Jan, who were the other producers, and Jennifer, of course, and Fazia, who was the writer and lead, and just an incredible creative human. I came in mostly to like manage production, and kind of once they were up and running, they knew they wanted to shoot, and they're like, how do we execute this for this budget? How do we get this off the ground for this budget? Right. And we shot, I think we shot 17 days. I'd have to check me on that, but roughly 3 weeks of shooting all over Chicago. We shot at the Hideout. We staged and created a whole wrestling ring up in the Fort Knox area off of the highway.
Yeah.
2112.
Yeah. I know those guys.
Yeah. We had a pretty small crew. I think we were under 30 for that. So it was kind of a lean and mean, I don't know, movie making machine. And Jennifer Reeder's just incredible. The DP, Christopher Rahano, who I've worked with quite a bit, is also awesome. Amanda Britton was our production designer. We had a whole slew of PAs and interns that like made it happen.
They're the workforce, right? They get the job done. Yep.
It is being on set. I have to tell you, did any of you ever go to summer camp? Is that a thing you did as a kid?
Yeah. Like day camp.
Sure. Yeah.
Or sleepaway camp.
Or sleepaway camp.
I went to day camp, but yes, I did that.
Yeah. I feel like movie making, being on set, is the equivalent of that for adults, usually with bars at the end of the day.
A lot less swimming, but otherwise I agree.
It depends on the movie.
That's true.
For that one.
So I joked at the top that we wanted to have somebody from CineSpace on for the longest time. CineSpace is a large studio that had opened up here in Chicago. Now, I may have my years wrong here, maybe 15 years ago. Does that sound about right? Maybe even 20 years ago.
They came in, they actually came in 2009. So a little bit less than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And very large studio space, you know, what we're talking about, like out in Hollywood, you know, finally Chicago had this large space. And we had seen an uptick in production since then. So what exactly were you doing when you were at CineSpace?
Yeah, so I still kind of am there. By proxy, sort of, I'll explain it. But I've been around CineSpace since 2012, 2013, probably. I was actually a student at DePaul, and I'll tell you a fun story. We went to tour CineSpace because I was helping produce a faculty film. Like they had this thing where like students could work on faculty projects and get experience, all of that.
Cool.
And we were trying to find this like creepy warehouse area. So of course we call CineSpace. They're not anywhere as built out as they are today. They have like 4 stages. they show us this warehouse. They show us where the boss is being filmed. They show us a few like very empty, creepy areas that no one has touched in a while. And then we get a tour of the Playboy Club set, which was filming there at the time. Did not last very long, but the set was beautiful. The set was just like gorgeous. And I come on set and there is Alex Pisios, who's the president of Cinespace and a dear friend of mine. And he's very Greek and very proud. And he says, "Oh, hey, welcome." And it started this really cool friendship between me and Alex right there and then on the set, on this crazy film set in the middle of this like ugly, unclean, like warehouse. I thought I was cool because I was going to a movie studio and I was talking like I was 40 when I was like 21. And it was an interesting experience. But Alex and I stayed in touch, and in 2014 he came to me. I just come back from a break. I like went and I was the executive producer at The Onion. Then I broke off of that and I produced an off-Broadway boogie woogie piano dueling show in New York.
Like you do.
I was, like you do, logically, because I was sick of movies. And then I came back and Alex was like, "Hey, Angie, like I want to start an incubator for independent filmmakers." I was like, "Okay, these are my people. These are my people. We've been eating pizza and working on set for 16 hours. Like, let's all hang out." And he gave me like an office space. And we started effectively a co-working space before it was cool on the Cinespace lot. And that was at the time an organization that I founded with Alex called Stage 18. And that has grown and merged. And now we are called IFA, or the Independent Film Alliance. Still have offices on the lot and still serving filmmakers, and Cinespace are very close partners. And I give tours of Cinespace just by virtue of the fact that I've been around there for a while, so I can answer any and all of your questions.
Oh, Matt, sounds like we got a tour in our future.
Yeah, I was just going to say, my only question is, when can we line up a tour? Maybe after the vaccine rollout is complete. We'll have to take you up on that.
As soon as I get back and drop off my Airstream, like early mid-June, we'll set a date. Great.
Awesome.
We will book it. I like it. All right. You heard it's Eddie Murphy month, and we're doing director's cuts that we would like to see. So a tough question. I'm putting you on the spot here. Of an Eddie Murphy movie, what film of his do you think needs a little tweaking, a director's cut that would make it a lot better?
Oh, I mean, the first one that comes to mind to answer that question is Dr. Dolittle 2. Or either of the Dr. Dolittles.
But 2 is probably the lesser of.
2 was probably the lesser.
Yeah.
I don't know if much more needs to be said than that, but that's my opinion on that one. I will say, on the flip side, I love Shrek, and I love Eddie Murphy as the donkey in Shrek. And I just have to give a shout out to that. That is one of my favorite animated films. Again, prefer the first one over the sequels in those cases, but I have to include that.
That lines up perfectly for reasons I will explain later.
What about you all? Do you have to answer the question, or is it just me?
No, just you. Just you.
Okay.
Matt, if you want to take a crack at that.
All right. Yeah, I feel bad. Like Angie has to go out on that plank all by herself. Yeah, I mean, it's so much of his early work is just masterpieces. You don't touch Beverly Hills Cop. You don't even touch 48 Hours. You don't touch Trading Places or Coming to America. Where I think it really started to dip, Dr. Dolittle was a good choice, but the one that really jumps out at me, where a second chance would make this a movie worth watching, is Daddy Daycare.
Totally, 100%.
Right? Yeah.
Okay, if I'm on the spot, I would probably actually go Beverly Hills Cop 3. And the
All
reason
right.
being is because I loved Beverly Hills Cop 1. 2 wasn't all that bad. If he would have made a good 3, it could have been in one of those great series that we see, like, 4, 5, 6 Beverly Hills Cop, and I would have been okay with it. But 3 dropped the ball.
That's actually an intelligent answer.
It's a very intelligent answer with facts to back it up. I was just like, it's basically crap. So, my opinion. But I think I have a strong bias against sequels. Like, I watched the first movie and I always just assume that every movie after that is going to be increasingly worse. And therefore, I've like already decided I've never given a sequel a chance. I've already decided I'm not going down that road.
And that thought process is correct probably 98% of the time. There are those few exceptions, right? That the sequel is better, but they're minor. So
what are the exceptions?
Evil Dead 2.
A lot of people, I always go Terminator 2, I think is superior than Terminator. A lot of people like Empire Strikes Back over Star Wars.
Sure.
Godfather 2, Godfather, you could argue.
Those are pretty interchangeable.
Sure.
Tough to say Godfather 2 is better.
But again, that's the minority.
Okay.
So.
Sure.
Angie, for the jawheads listening to this, that's our listeners, what we call them, the jawheads. If they want to go to your website to find out more about the coaching, what you do, and maybe even ask for help, where should we send them online?
Well, that's angiegaffney.com. Gaff as in Frank, Ney. People often assume my last name is Gaffney, which is less flattering and incorrect. So with an F. I took a 2.5-year hiatus from producing, but I have 2 feature films that are currently in final distribution talks. So they will be out hopefully later this year. Nice. And I'm a certified life coach. So I work with all filmmakers on all sorts of stuff, from like vulnerability to like making that project happen.
Yeah. I know I
give tours of Cinespace.
Yeah. I know we've had listeners working on projects and they've reached out to us with various questions. So, I mean, you'd be a great resource if they need help or questions, to reach out.
Totally. It's what I do in Chicago. It's like my job at IFA is to help make filmmakers like find the resources or the learning tools they need to make their projects.
Do it. And Jawheads, we'll have all the links to Angie's stuff in the show notes, as we always do.
We got a great guest who's going to help us with this top 5, don't we, Matt?
Yes, we do.
And the reason we're doing this top 5 is because Justice League, the Snyder Cut, is out on HBO Max. Matt, 10 years ago, if you had asked me if I would sit through a 4-hour-long superhero film, I would have said with conviction, not a chance. But here we are. I have to admit, I was caught up in the story of how the Snyder Cut of Justice League movie came to be. I was cheering for the film's success, with WB giving Snyder between $30 and $70 million to restore his vision and giving him final say. Would he supply us with the most epic superhero film of all time? Matt and I fired up our HBO Max to see how high it could fly.
I spent a lot of time trying to divide us. I made a promise to him on his grave. I need to bring us together. There are enemies coming from far away.
They serve an old power.
This world is divided. No protectors here. No lanterns. No Kryptonium. It will fall in his name. I have turned worlds to dust. All of existence shall be mine.
For the few out there who may not know the backstory, Zack Snyder was directing Justice League in 2017 when his oldest daughter, Autumn, died by suicide. The director stepped away from the project to spend time with his family. Warner Brothers hired Joss Wheadon to finish the film. But Whedon and the studio heads did not like what Snyder had done already, so they reshot tons of new scenes, cut many others, and tried to inject some of the Marvel humor nonsense. The result was a hot pile of garbage. The film underperformed at the box office, and critics and fans alike hated it. In 2020, a hashtag, Release the Snyder Cut, seemed to be trending on Twitter every day for about 3 months. With WB launching HBO Max and needing projects to attract some subscribers, something rare happened. The studio granted the fans' wish and let Zack Snyder finish his movie the way he wanted, no questions asked. For the most part, the story of Justice League is the same. Batman, along with Wonder Woman, is trying to gather a league of heroes to help fend off an evil force that is invading Earth. That evil force is Steppenwolf, who is trying to locate the mother boxes, which are in different kingdoms around Earth. This time around, Steppenwolf is much more fleshed out, and that's because Zack Snyder introduces a character named Darkseid, an evil god-like villain that Steppenwolf is trying to get back into good graces with. With 4-hour runtime, our Justice League heroes get more backstory as well. By far, this helps out Cyborg the most. The ending action scene is so much better. It's difficult to figure out what WB and Joss Whedon were thinking. Did this turn into a perfect film? No. But is it better than what we got in 2017? Hell yeah, it is. I enjoyed this one. Matt, 2 questions over to you. Now seeing Zack Snyder's vision, are you upset we will not get more of his Justice League films? And secondly, what change do you think helped the Snyder Cut the most?
I am upset a little bit because, you know, after the success of Wonder Woman and Aquaman, I think there's clearly an audience, right? And there were a lot of new things that the Snyder Cut sets up. Extra characters and extra villains are introduced. You mentioned Darkseid. There's also an extra hero that I won't spoil. Now we're not going to get to see those things come to fruition, I guess. Who knows? At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they did do it. And what change helped this movie out the most? You mentioned it. It's clearly the character development. You mentioned Cyborg, and I agree. Probably his character benefited the most, but the Flash, that cannot be understated. He was so annoying and awkward. And don't get me wrong, he's still annoying and awkward, but he has a heart, he has a soul, and he also is a full-fledged hero who helps save the day. He's not just a comedic device, you know, like ending up on top of Wonder Woman in a very awkward moment. That should have been cut from the original. Gladly, that moment is cut from the Snyder vision. I think this is vastly improved. It is. I mean, the character development, obviously, it felt like it was rushed at the time that they were trying to get all these heroes into one movie, sort of playing catch up to Marvel at this point. And they were rushing this without everybody having a movie of their own, as they did in the Marvel universe. Here we were getting introduced to the Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman for the first time. And it was, how are they going to introduce us to the characters and actually tell a story? You needed 4 hours if you were properly going to do it. And so I think it helped greatly. Well, let's address that really quickly, because you said this is not a perfect movie. It is definitely not. Did they need 4 hours? No. This was gratuitous because Zack Snyder could. He could. So why not? There's an entire epilogue that I found 100% superfluous. Well, I kept waiting for there to be something worth clinging to. I mentioned an extra hero. He does show up in the epilogue, but he had also shown up earlier in the film. You can cut that, and I think it's almost a half hour long. Cut it right out. Doesn't need it. It didn't add anything.
Not to mention, he loves the slow-mo shot of the heroes all together. And once, great. Twice, okay, I'll let you slide. 3 times, a little too much. 4, 5, all right, Zach, we get it. Enough slow-mo shots of the 4 heroes, 5 heroes on screen at one time, you know?
There's a lot of fluff here, and for the most part, I would say the fluff isn't so heavy that it outweighs the actual meat, but there's a lot of fluff.
I watched it in 2 sittings. I watched it. I started at about 6:30 in the evening. I watched 2 hours of it. I took a healthy hour break where I ate dinner, watched some basketball, and then went back into the screening room and finished it. How'd you knock it off?
I kind of chopped it up. Largely, I stuck to the chapters that they provide us with because there's 6 title cards, I believe, or at least 5. And so I started it in the evening before I went to bed, watched up to the first title card. That's a good chunk of the movie. Went to bed, woke up. I have kids who are doing at-home learning right now in the pandemic, so I would watch as I could while they were doing their classes, and if they needed help, I would pause and come back and pause. And then I finished it up in the evening. So 3 sittings.
Not bad for a 4-hour movie.
No. That's about what you got to do.
Yep. But big improvement, still not perfect. I think we would both agree.
Yeah.
The best of those movies, better than Batman v Superman for sure.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely better than Batman v Superman. It's amazing.
Wonder
like you
Woman
said,
1, though?
Not better than Wonder Woman. No, I wouldn't put it better than Wonder Woman. Out of all those movies, I'd put Wonder Woman tops and then probably the second.
Yeah, followed by Aquaman, if we're ranking them.
Yeah. You got a jaw-dropping moment that took place?
I do. I got to dance around this one a little bit because there may be some people who still haven't seen the Snyder Cut. So I'm just going to say there is a pretty violent decapitation in this that comes later in the movie. And when you see, it's actually kind of glorious when it happens. It's kind of a return to sender moment. And I thought it was just amazing to add that little touch.
That was fantastic. And we can say Wonder Woman's involved in this. And it's, I
can we? I mean, there you go. That's a spoiler because clearly Wonder Woman didn't lose her head.
Well, right. But I had commented before we were recording on how great that moment was. I don't know what they were thinking of cutting that before. That was mine also. If I had a second one, it is the backstory of Flash saving the day. He has his own little sort of segment where he saves a girl in a car accident. That entire sequence was, I thought, a blast. And I love the slow motion there. It doesn't feel gratuitous, like he's doing it so much. Felt actually perfect.
Better depiction of speed powers. The Fox X-Men Quicksilver, not the Marvel Quicksilver, but the Fox Quicksilver or the Flash.
I don't know the Fox Quicksilver, so I'm just going to say the Flash. Yeah.
Oh my God, they're brilliantly shot scenes that you absolutely just should go on YouTube if you haven't seen them.
So who would you say?
I would have to give it to Quicksilver.
Well, I'm going with the Flash.
He's got like 3 major sequences.
I'm going with the Flash.
He rescues everybody from the X Mansion as it's exploding, and
well, the Flash saved a girl from a car. I mean, she was about to fly out of the car, and the guy's so fast he rescued her.
Not even half as cool.
All right. How about a movie poster quote?
I actually have 2. Okay.
Against the rules, but okay.
A cut above the original is my
not
first
bad,
one.
Matt. You led with this one. Okay, Let's hear the second one.
The second one is it's a little half baked, but I'm going with so much wish fulfillment you'll think you're Max Lord. That's a callback to Wonder Woman 1984.
Should have stuck with the first one for sure.
I
were on a roll there.
Yeah. The Max Lord one needs some work. It needs some workshopping.
Yep. I just went with Joss Who.
Yeah, poor Joss. Now he's going to be remembered for the guy that screwed up Justice League instead of the glory he had coming off of Avengers,
How many jaws for this one, Matt?
Listen, this is the Lord of the Rings of superhero movies. And as jawheads know, I'm a big superhero movie fan. Are there flaws? Sure. But this is a 4-jaw movie.
Wow.
A 4-jaw movie. And plus, all the hype, all the anticipation, all the wish fulfillment, everything that went around, the Snyder Cut. It's almost a legend, right? Boom. 4 jaws. That's
insane. I'm going 3.5 jaws. 3.5 jaws for the Snyder Cut.
That's
I'm also very big fan. It's such an improvement. And I do think that, I actually got emotional because he dedicates the movie to his daughter. And the whole story of him coming back and making this movie and the fans sort of willing it to happen in the studio, giving him the money. It's just, this is a one in a lifetime experience to have a movie come out and be 4 hours long like this. I just ate it up.
It's as if the Flash ran so fast that he reversed time. Superman flew against the Earth, brought it back, and Batman found some Kryptonian technology that could bring the dead back to life, right? I mean, that's kind of what we got all wrapped up in one movie.
Well, you heard it here, Jawheads. 4 Jaws from Matt K, 3.5 Jaws from Rye the Movie Guy. If you have seen Justice League, you want to comment about it, anything, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can always email us, feedback@cinemajaw.com. With this epic movie, a director's cut like this, it got us thinking. 5 movies that, in my case, I actually like all 5 movies, but I'm just disappointed that they're not better. That's the way I phrased it. And Angie, this is a tough list for you to come in on. We normally don't do these as complicated. So was it a difficult list for you to come up with, or did you find 5 rather easy?
I found 5 rather easy, and my logic varies on each. I had to stop myself from going to 5 movies that were just like terrible. Mm-hmm. There's maybe like 1 or 2 in there, but I think I have some witty comments to fill it out. Nice. But no, it was fun to come up with. I went all the way back to my childhood. I was like, oh, I wonder. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're getting us started this week. What do you got sitting at number 5?
Okay, so just to clarify, 5 is the like most important.
Right.
Yes.
Correct.
So at 5, I actually have The Sound of Music.
Ooh.
Wow. This is controversial.
Do
tell.
So this is the movie I watched over. I was a musical theater kid, so don't blame me. But I watched over and over and over and over as a child. Probably can still sing all the songs ad nauseum. My parents were not super thrilled about that obsession.
Oh, I'm sure they loved it, Angie. Come on.
It was cute like the first 5 times. I think after that it got a little. But looking back on it as an adult, and I'm sure society's changed as well. I wanted more after the fact. I wanted I was like, what is like the Zack Snyder or the elongated, I mean, the movie's already long, but the elongated version of like the next chapter
after
that happens
escape.
after the like helicopter plane shot and they're like walking up on top of the mountain and the credits roll. What happens after that? So I just would love to see more. That's where I'm at with that one.
What if Captain Von Trapp died and the kids had to find a new match for Maria, and they played matchmaker and they called the sequel The Parent Von Trapp?
You already know how I feel about sequels, Matt.
No, but I hear you. I mean, that was a great joke, guys. I love The Sound of Music. I also watched it again and again on repeat. And you're right. What happened? And a lot of people don't even know that's a true story, or maybe a lot of people do. So there is a second half to that story that we just never got.
Yeah, and as a child, I would always I remember I would always skip beyond the opening scene. She's like singing in the mountains. I think she's really? With the nuns, right? Mm-hmm. I would like want to get to the family. Like as a small kid, I was all about the family songs because there were multiple harmonies to sing along to or whatever.
Yeah, but you're skipping How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria, the Hills Are Alive, and those are a couple of the best tunes.
I was like 8. It's what I love.
Fair enough.
So.
All right, that swings it over to my number 5, and this is very different from Sound of Music, arguably. I'm going with Paul Verhoeven's 1997 movie Starship Troopers. Now,
wow.
Here's the thing. I love Starship Troopers, but I really think it's also it got panned, right? It has since developed a cult following. I think that there's, especially in today's political climate, let's say, there's an actual criticism, satirical message that was touched on, which I think is why it's got this cult following. but not exploited enough, not used properly. So give it another hour, maybe half hour, tweak it, recut a few of the scenes. I'm going to say something controversial. Tone down some of the gore and violence that maybe turned a lot of casual
Bite your
viewers.
tongue.
I know,
Bite your
right?
tongue.
Just a little. You know, if it's at a 10, just take it down to a 9, maybe 9.5. And more Neil Patrick Harris, please. More Neil Patrick Harris.
That does always make a movie better.
Yes, it does.
Always more MPH.
Swings it over to my number 5. And it's a film, as I mentioned, all 5 of mine are movies that I would say I like, but I had problems with. And at number 5, I very, very strongly have come to this conclusion that Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is the best prequel of the Star Wars trilogy and of the prequel trilogy. But it is definitely not a perfect film. And the obvious change I would make is everybody hates Jar Jar Binks. I agree. Less Jar Jar Binks. Cut some of the corny Jake Lloyd dialogue for sure, right?
Yippee.
Right. Get rid of all the yippies that he ever said. There should be no yippies in the movie. And there's a couple of really corny dialogues that he uses that are just terrible. Like, let's try turning. I hate all of that. Give Natalie Portman a bit more personality. Condense some of the trade politics at the beginning of the movie. Make it a little bit snappier at the beginning. It takes a little time to get going. But that said, I still think Phantom Menace out of the prequels is the best of the 3. It's the most Star Wars-like movie that I can return to that reminds me the most of the original trilogy. Not so heavy on the CGI effects quite yet, still using some practical models and effects and sets. I like the Phantom Menace. It needs help, but it could have been one of the better Star Wars with just some tweaks.
I agree with you. And it does happen to have the best lightsaber duel in the entire damn saga. And
great score too. John Williams with the music came back during that lightsaber duel was fantastic. I love me some Phantom Menace. So that was my number 5. Into our 4s we go. What do you got sitting there, Angie?
Into the 4s. So I have probably a controversial 4, but I have Titanic.
Oh,
Angie, I'm a huge Titanic fan.
And I'm a major detractor.
You are a major detractor.
I hate the movie, yeah.
Yeah, I am like, I love Titanic. I mean, I love, as like a film producer, I can have a huge appreciation for the execution of the film, right? And I was like, I was thinking about this the other day, and whenever I think about Titanic, there are a few scenes that stick in my mind. There's the scene when they're having sex under a fan and like her hand like goes across and the steam in the window. That's a classic image.
Sure.
But I just thought the bookend of the old woman and the like going to find the diamond and like that just it was too on the nose for me. Like, yes, it was very sentimental, but I felt like there was a better way to edit that into the story or hearken that into the story that wasn't such a strong bookend on either side. Yeah, that's my biggest quirk there.
Well, this is crushing. I just had her listed when we did our top 5 favorite grandmothers. She even made my list on favorite movie grandmothers. I had her on there.
I'm sorry to break your heart, right? But not sorry.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. There's a lot of things that could be done differently in that movie to make it a little better. So, yeah.
And I was trying to look it up. I actually wasn't sure if it was the studio or the director's cut or like what that edit process was like on that one, but I'll have to look into it.
Speaking of controversial number 4 picks. So, when you talk about George Miller, you probably immediately think of Mad Max, probably Fury Road. It's quite an accomplishment. But he also directed a movie called Babe, Pig in the City. Have you guys seen Babe? Wow, I've never seen Phil look so pained before.
I have not seen Babe, Pig in the City.
Here's the thing. I have young kids, okay? And
they love talking pigs.
Do not bring Quinn Parker into this. This was a movie that came out when I was a kid, man.
Okay, well then, Phil, back me up here. Babe, Pig in the City. It's directed by the guy that did Mad Max. It's a way better movie than it has any business being. Am I right or wrong? I mean, it's like Paddington 2 level good.
I am the wrong person to be asking, Matt. I firmly disagree. I think That'll Do Pig is a funny meme, but that is the extent to my appreciation for
Wow,
Babe,
you
Pig
guys
in the
need
City.
to rewatch. Rye's never seen it. Angie, have you seen Babe, Pig in the City?
No.
Okay, listen.
To your
guys.
credit, Matt, I remember Gene Siskel, the great film critic, had it as his #1 movie of the year that it came out. So I know it has credibility.
Okay, I'm not alone here. So the thing I think that makes, and I'm not going to belabor this because Phil hates it and you two haven't seen it, but
But you're supposed to be changing.
for the jawheads, this is what I'm gonna change. There's a dark undertone, right? It's there. That George Miller action darkness is in the movie. I say Babe, Pig in the City would be so much more amazing if they just lean into that fully. Just embrace the fact that this is a dark movie and not just a kids movie. Go a little bit more. I hate to say Tim Burton, but he's the closest thing I can think of. Like, get a little weirder with it, get a little darker with it. And I think it could have been just an absolute. It's already a treasure, but it could have been like a near perfect film. It's that good.
I will validate Matt on that because I think that this movie positions itself as a kids movie as its biggest crime. Because I was the target demographic for this, and as I was watching it as a young child in like second grade or whatever, I remember thinking, "What the hell is this? I'd rather be watching SpongeBob."
Right.
This isn't fun for me.
Next time you watch Fury Road and you think to yourself, "I wonder what a kids movie directed by this guy would look like," just go watch Babe, Pig in the City.
I'll actually write that down. I will check it out. It's been on my to-dos. So as a reminder, good pick, Matt.
Knock that one off.
All right. Who wouldn't want to change something about almost all of M. Night Shyamalan's movie? Well, I had to pick one of them. Well, M. Night was on a roll. Remember back in the day how exciting he was coming off of The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable? And then he gave us 2002 Signs. And I remember seeing Signs in the theater, and it was sort of an event film, mainly because of M. Night's name, but also it had Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix in it. It was a big to-do movie, and the hype around it and being in the theater, I think, added to all the scares that he presented on screen, and it all worked. But what Angie was saying with Titanic was that it was too on the nose for her, and did Signs go on the nose at the end in that movie. And I'm sure there's listeners out there that like the line "swing away" that Mel Gibson yells at Joaquin Phoenix. But I was disappointed by the ending of Signs. I remember liking it like a ton and then being like, what? Wah, wah, wah. That kind of feeling. Like the movie just didn't work for me when we got to the actual end and the way that what was actually going to hurt the aliens. Felt like it was like a cop out, or they couldn't come up with a great ending.
What was their weakness?
Water.
It was the water. Yeah.
Like
and he
the
had the
Wicked
glass
Witch.
of water, and he hit the baseball bat, and
Why would you come to a planet that's like 90% water?
It's so goofy. It just fell apart in the last. In my mind, the last 10 minutes of that movie was just so weak compared to the first 90% of that movie.
Yeah.
That I just wish they came up with something better way to end that movie. And who knows? Maybe M. Night would have been still on the high ground, even though he's making a return. You know.
Yeah. So just reshoot some of the end, the whole thing that the alien weakness is. Get some additional photography, and then boom. Yeah, that's a good movie.
Come up with something else. You know.
Dirty
Gotta
Socks.
figure out a
What
better
would you
ending.
have hated? Their weakness, just out of curiosity.
Aspirins. I don't know. Anything better than water.
I agree.
That's great.
Did you see Steins, Angie?
I did a long time ago.
Yeah. It does end kind of corny, doesn't it?
It ends kind of corny, and as a result, it has not stuck in my mind very, very, very clearly.
Mm-hmm. All right. What do you got sitting at number 3?
Okay, so I just want to caveat that I love this movie. I just think it would be cool to see it like a little more genrefied. And that film is Jaws. Love Jaws.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. This might be the most controversial pick. I don't think you can change anything about Jaws.
Okay, but wait. So love Jaws. Not saying I want to like re-edit the whole thing. Fun fact about me, like my first job in Chicago was I ran haunted houses. Like I have a whole haunted house, like gore background that I don't ever really talk about. And one of the reasons Jaws is so successful is because you barely see the shark, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And that's what makes like a really good thriller, because then every audience member can like picture the scariest thing. And it's like completely customized to the audience member. But being a fan of gore and blood, I would have loved a little, like, I would love to see a cut where there's a little more gore.
Wow.
A little less thriller and a little more like full on blood, guts, shark eating things, etc.
So you've stated your position on sequels before, but have you seen any of the Jaws sequels, like the Bahamas one?
I didn't. Not, no.
Okay, well, you get your gore. It's great. Like the first 5 minutes, I forget the kid that survives the original Jaws, but he gets his arms bitten off like right in the beginning. And I mean, he's there with stubs and blood is shooting out of his shoulders. It's great.
But is it any good?
No, it's
I loved
schlock.
it. It's
So
awesome.
I think what Angie wants is the high quality movie of Jaws, but added in a little bit more gore, but you're not losing the quality of the movie.
Yes, this is my biggest thing with like sometimes like especially action films or thriller or horror, they go too genre. And as a result, you lose like the character development. And I only do like super character driven indies. So I'm a sucker for that shit. Yeah, but you know, and some blood, some gore, a good mix.
Yeah.
It's fun. That would be great.
I'm in your camp. I love blood and gore as well. All right. There's my number 3 pick. I don't think it's going to be controversial at all. I think we can all agree that Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight Rises is a mess. It's an absolute mess. For a whole host of reasons, this movie would just benefit so well from a director's cut. First of all, Christopher Nolan, I don't think anybody's going to argue with me here, is an amazing director, one of the best living directors. That's a fact, right? We can all agree. Christopher Nolan's one of the best. But The Dark Knight Rises just doesn't live up to him. First of all, Bane. Okay, can we redub Tom Hardy? This will not work for me, Batman. I hate it. Redub Tom Hardy. I don't know what that choice was about. The whole prison scene, it's good. It's just way too long. Catwoman. All right. We got to talk about Catwoman. She's such an important, compelling character, and she's relegated to the sideline.
Oh, she's good here, though. I don't have an issue with Catwoman.
My issue with Catwoman is that she wasn't used enough. The Talia al Ghul thing, I think you can kind of just get rid of that. Make Bane the villain, get rid of Talia. Like, it was just so contrived. The whole thing at the end with the fight and like the bombs and
I do agree. I do agree it needed some help. It's definitely needs help to be anywhere near as good as The Dark Knight, right?
It's not even as good as Batman Begins. Oh, and by the way, that's another example of a sequel being better than the original film, Dark Knight.
That's true. I will stand by that.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my number 3, guys.
But I agree. I overall agree that Dark Knight Rises needs some help, Matt. My number 3 pick is a Disney film that I thought was going to be awesome. I rewatched it last summer, put it mildly, was so disappointed watching it a second time. I thought, man, did they miss the boat here. Taylor Kitsch. Remember this guy? Taylor Kitsch?
Swift?
No, Taylor Kitsch. This guy was supposed to be the next movie star. And in 2012, he starred as John Carter in John Carter.
Oh, yeah.
And I've talked about how much I love space and Mars in particular. So having this tale of John Carter, Prince of Mars, come out, I was already excited. And the film has this epic sci-fi tale, but they were also going for the comedy angle that like a Harrison Ford or a Chris Pratt could bring to a hero. So you have some of that, he's falling in love. He's sort of goofy. He's, on this adventure, the kind of character that most times audiences are going to cheer for. But Taylor Kitsch just didn't have the charisma. So I think once they got their guy and they're filming the movie at this point, I think they needed to scale back on that that whole element of John Carter. Stop making him, sort of the lovable goofball on this adventure, because he wasn't pulling it off. You still have a really interesting movie with great aliens and a good plot, I think, a pretty decent plot that could have probably went on to have at least 2-3 sequels. Instead, we just got a film that tried so hard to fit the mold of what a action summer tentpole is supposed to be that it failed at it. I think they needed to scale that back a little bit and actually just go with what play to the strengths of the actors you had involved, and that kind of goofball charisma that we love, like a Chris Pratt for, Taylor Kitsch just doesn't have, and he tried hard to have it here and it didn't work.
So they were basically taking a Eric Stoltz shaped peg and trying to fit it into a Michael J. Fox shaped hole here.
Right. We saw in Back to the Future, they recast it. That was epic. If they weren't going to do that here, at least scale back on a few things,
So you're a John Carter apologist? You like it?
I had fun with it both times I watched it. It's just not that good of a movie. It's one of those, it's exactly fits on this list as this should be so much better. A good movie's in there. You got to shake it up a little bit.
Interesting.
I love what you said, right, about playing to the strengths of the actors. Like, it's always the worst when a lead actor is trying to fit into like some sort of charismatic personality mold, like trying really hard but can't quite make it.
Right.
So, yeah.
And that's what happened here with John Carter. Still worth a spin. It's on Disney Plus if you have it, Jawheads. Into our twos we go. What do you got sitting there, Angie?
Okay, so this is a book adaptation that I loved gone bad, and that is Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. This film needed some help.
I liked it.
A lot of help. And I don't know if y'all have read the book. The book is great. I love the book. Big fan of the book. But I feel they tried to cram way too much of the book into the film. And as a result, none of like the through lines in the script quite worked. And then the edit tried to make up for it. And I felt like everything was kind of like, the plot was a little mushy. Everything was overcomplicated. The characters didn't quite drive. And I was so disappointed because I love the book. I'm a big J-Law fan. And I was like, ooh, a thriller. And with like this sexy woman spy who can seduce everybody. And I was super into it. And then it just kind of fell apart for me. But I have to say, I really think that film is the case of a poor script, poorly adapted, that the edit tried to compensate for. So like the edit tried to fix it and it couldn't get it right.
That's interesting. I'm going to have to rewatch it with fresh eyes. I remember being really high on the movie and liking it, specifically for the reasons you mentioned. Like, I think there's a lot of room for a vehicle, like a Jennifer Lawrence vehicle where she's like a sexy spy that could have even become like a franchise for her. And while I liked it, I agree that it had some major problems.
I don't know who directed that. Can we throw that in the fish tank, Phil?
I think was that Francis Lawrence? I think it was Francis Lawrence.
Okay. Phil will double check for us.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I was disappointed. I remember we reviewed it on Cinemajaw, and I was a little bit down on it, and Matt liked it a lot more than I did.
I did, but I think I was looking at the potential far more than the actual outcome. And I just like Jennifer Lawrence.
I think it's always hard, though, when you read the book first.
Yeah.
That's like the pre-sequel to my sequel opinion is the book first.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, Ready Player One is a prime example.
Yeah.
All right. So at number 2, I have a film that I absolutely adore. There was a long period of my life where if you asked me, what's your favorite movie? My answer was Alex Cox's Repo Man. It's got Emilio Estevez, Harry Dean Stanton, Tracy Walter, who you'll all probably know as the Joker's right-hand man in Tim Burton's Batman. He's also like pops up everywhere. He's that guy. Olivia Brash is in this too. Anyway, it's about like a punk rock kid who becomes a repo man. I'm not going to recount the entire movie for you, but it's very sci-fi, very spiritual, but it's also really boring in stretches and it sags. Have you guys seen Repo Man, or am I... Angie, have you seen it?
I still have not seen this, even though you've mentioned it numerous times on the Jaw, and I say every time, yeah, maybe I'll check this one out. I haven't.
I think it's worth checking out. There's a lot of really good decisions they did in this movie. Like all the products in this movie are generic. So if you see like soda on a shelf anywhere in this movie, it'll just say soda, and they all have this a white and blue label, like every product in the movie. I've never seen that done before, and I've never seen it done since. Such a tiny little detail, but it stuck with me. And just those saggy moments this movie could be so much better if it was just tighter. And I don't know if they kind of had the wherewithal in 1984 to make that happen in the editing room. But otherwise, I love the movie.
My number 2, the Wachowskis. They sometimes need some help.
Sometimes.
The Wachowskis teamed up with Tom Tykwer in 2012, and they gave us Cloud Atlas. It was an epic movie, all about 3 hours long, and it has Tom Hanks in it, Halle Berry, who I thought their chemistry actually didn't work as well as it probably should have. Hugh Grant's in this as well, and it's a lot to unfold. There's multiple timelines, multiple characters, and they're trying to make this into one 3-hour film, and it just didn't work. The book, everybody who has read it, I remember Elias Rodriguez, our old producer, had read the book, are huge fans. And I think trying to make it into a movie was almost near impossible. So what I would have done was actually give it the Snyder treatment, put in title cards, break it into segments, and nowadays release Cloud Atlas as like a 5-part Netflix series. I think it would play so much better as a 5-part limited series than it would have what they tried to accomplish in movie form, because it just didn't work. What was the
movie we reviewed just a week or two ago where we said it would benefit greatly from being like
Cherry,
right? Another book adaptation. Man, do you guys think that this could be the way movies go now with the Snyder Cut and the success of like WandaVision? Could we get like more series instead of...
There's already enough series. I mean, it's happening a lot. I mean, you're constantly seeing books adapted into limited series. That's already a thing. So I think when the book's big enough, like Cloud Atlas, it warrants a 5-part series, probably more so than a 3-hour movie, even though they tried to make it into a 3-hour movie. Maybe at the time a Cloud Atlas came out, which was 2012, that probably wasn't an option, but it is now. So
certainly is.
I would think Cloud Atlas would benefit greatly if it was a series and not a movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I get super curious. I would love to see more projects, like if a successful series was adapted into a feature, and like a feature was adapted then into a series, or part of it, or one character, or whatever it may be. I would love to see more like cross medium sequelizing rather than sequelizing shitty features.
I hear what you're saying. I'm totally with you, which is why I think like you can poo-poo on superhero movies. Fine. That's easy to do. But like what Marvel has done with like WandaVision is actually kind of groundbreaking. And it's been attempted many times. In fact, they attempted it before to varying degrees of success. But now I think the floodgates may have opened. So I agree.
All right. We are into our number ones here on Cinemajaw. Angie, what do you got sitting there?
Okay. So musical theater nerd, remember, I despise this movie. It is Cats. I despise
the one that just
Cats.
Came out?
I despise it.
Well, you're not alone.
With my entire being. I think it should be a short film, but if it's not a short film, I think that it's you either need to remove all the cats or you need to add in more cats. It like exists in this weird middle ground between like really leaning into the weird and like trying to be normal.
It's the uncanny valley.
Yes, I have a list. Hold on. There's a weird scale going on in the film. Like some cats are so small and other cats are really big. And like, I mean, it's a movie about cats. In our human life, like cats are like kind of around the same, you know, size, depending on how much you feed it. So again, either like lean into this weird scale or like remove the weird scale. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, but there was a huge Twitter campaign that Keynote's audience started to release the butthole cut.
I was going to bring it up if you didn't. So yes, I'm fully aware of that.
Yeah. They added in CG cat buttholes, and then some poor VFX person had to go back in and take them out. So somewhere there is a cut with that just, you know, hanging out and incorporated. Would it make it better? No. Would it make it like would we be able to make fun of it a little bit more? Maybe. I don't know if there's anything that could make it much worse, but that would at least be funny.
So what you're saying basically, if I understand you, is hashtag release the butthole cut?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm on board. Totally.
Well, I have not seen Cats yet. I know it's streaming. Phil, can we throw it in the fish tank? What service it's on? I know I've seen it on one of them, and I was going to do it soon on one of those like late nights when I'm in a good mood. I've got some beers flowing, and I've already watched a movie. Finally, throw on Cats and just have a laugh. You know what I mean? I'm hoping that it's so bad that I'm laughing, but some of those movies don't quite get in that groove. It's just so bad that I'm like, oh no.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If they made it so bad that it was hilarious, it would be great. But
So-
it tries to be like weirdly human. I don't know.
I am
There's
going
a
to
lot
have
of
to give it a
feelings about
spin
it.
at some point here, Matt.
Is there? Yeah. All right. I don't want to belabor this, but now I'm thinking there's good. There's so bad it's good. Is there a missed so hard either category it's good? Is there that third thing? I don't know. If there was,
I don't know.
Maybe
would
that's
be
The
a
Room.
candidate.
Is that The Room?
I was just
No.
going to say, no, I feel like The Room is the
The second
so
one.
bad it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Danzig's movie might fall in that category as well. All right, my number one, guys. Rye, you started off with Star Wars, and that's where I leave you with Star Wars as well. And I'm going the exact opposite direction with the pick here, at least chronologically. The Rise of Skywalker. This was the end of an epic 40-year series of films, right? And it all had to come together and tie everything up in a satisfying bow. That's all they had to do. And I'm sorry, as much as I love the movie, I've watched it a couple of times since its release. I'm not sure it satisfied me completely. I don't like Palpatine being the villain, if I'm being completely honest with you, but I don't even know if that's the main problem. It doesn't satisfactorily pay off on Rey's lineage or if she's going to go to the dark side or not. They kind of tease that, and then that doesn't go anywhere. Put another hour in. Look, this is the end of Star Wars. Put another hour in. I hear actually there is a JJ cut out there. It exists where there's a whole bunch more of her journey toward the dark side and the things that she experiences. Flesh that out, the whole thing, it just seemed a little stunted, I guess is the right word. It didn't completely sing, and it needed to, and it just doesn't. It hums loudly, but it doesn't sing.
I like that. That's a good analogy. It hums, but it doesn't sing.
Yeah, unfortunately.
My number one is the film, and I think we should all have a film like this where it's a love-hate relationship with a movie. And I have it with my number one, and that's why it sits right here on this particular top 5 list. 2012 also, this film came out. Ridley Scott gave us an Alien prequel when he gave us Prometheus.
Yeah.
And I've seen Prometheus 3 times. I don't watch that many movies multiple times these days, but I've made time to watch Prometheus 3 times. That means I like it The atmosphere created in Prometheus is great. Some of the ideas presented, fantastic. They're interesting ideas, especially the opening scene with the alien coming to Earth and dissolving into the creek. But at the same time, I have many issues with the film. One being how absolutely moronic the scientists start to act once they get to the alien planet.
Yes.
It's almost like they're not scientists at all, and they just start touching and doing stupid things that nobody would ever do, much less scientists that just traveled across space to get to an alien planet. Terrible. And that really ruins it. So some of the writing and the plot and the script there is just moronic. That's all I can say. It just makes no sense. It really gets you upset as a viewer. And then secondly, they have Charlize Theron cast in this movie, who's one of our best actresses working today. I love her in everything. And they just underuse her. They give her a character that is so one-dimensional and cliche that they don't let her actually work. She's a great actress. Just give her a little bit more material to work with, and that would have been such a stronger character and probably a better plot line they could have came up with. So those are the two of the things that I would fix that I think would make this movie a lot better. Don't have the scientists be morons. Make the script a little bit smarter. Have trust in your viewers. We've seen these kind of movies. And then two, come on, use Charlize Theron a little bit better. But it also has great scenes like giving birth to a squid baby and all kinds of craziness, and the sound, the soundtrack and the sound design in the film. And I mean, the imagery used, Michael Fassbender's fantastic. There's so many great things about the movie at the same time. It's like, it's almost a masterpiece. And at the same time, I hate it. How could that be?
The flute scene in particular with Fassbender. Yeah.
Oh, damn. It's so good. And makes me so mad at the same time, Prometheus.
And there's that really terrible age makeup. Is that Fassbender too in that character? Who the old guy who's like the head of the company?
No, I don't think that's Fassbender.
All right. Can we throw that in the fish tank? Who plays the old guy?
The old guy? No.
Yeah,
I don't know who the actor is. So that was my number one.
I think that's pretty summed up in like, don't make scientists morons. I feel like that is like the most contrasty statement about it.
Any honorable mentions before we go to break?
Yeah, I got a couple. I won't explain why they're on the list, but I think you guys are going to hate this pick. Age of Ultron, the Marvel movie.
I've never seen it. I'm still missing that one.
Yeah. There's a good movie in there. Again, I think they just didn't. All right, I said I wasn't going to explain it. Yeah. There's some character development missing. That's all I got. What you got? I
went with the Hobbit series. I think that should have been one movie. Condense it down to one movie. Give us a really good Hobbit movie would have been the best. Sunshine, the Danny Boyle sci-fi film that I love so much, falls apart in the third act, but it's great. And then The Matrix Reloaded, I think could have used some work, and we're going to revisit those before Matrix 4 though.
I would add Suicide Squad to that. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but I feel like that could use a little help. Yeah,
I think a lot of help.
No, I agree with you. I mean, the characters are there. The actors were there. I mean, clearly some great actors, but something just didn't work.
All right, Jawheads, if we missed your film that you would like to correct, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw or email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have Hollywood headlines. Plus, Matt is taking Angie on in Michelle Pfifer, Lucas Hedges movie trivia. Stick with us.
We end Eddie Murphy Month at a place where perhaps it began for a lot of listeners. This is when Shrek met Donkey. I mean, it's up there with when Harry met Sally.
Can I say something to you? Listen, you was really, really something back then. Incredible.
Are you talking to...
Me?
Whoa!
Yes, I was talking to you. Can I just tell you that you was really great back then, man? Those guards, they thought they was all of that. Then you showed up and bam! They was tripping over themselves like babes in the woods. See that? That really made me feel good to see that.
Oh, that's great. Really?
Man, it's good to be free.
Now, why don't you go celebrate your freedom with your own friends?
But, I don't have any friends. And I'm not going out there by myself. Hey, wait a minute, I got a great idea. I'll stick with you. You a mean green fighting machine. Together we'll scare the spit out of anybody that crosses us. Ah! Oh, ah! That was really scary. And if you don't mind me saying, if that don't work, your breath certainly will get the job done, cause you definitely need some Tic Tacs or something, cause your breath stinks. Man, you almost burned the hair out my nose. Just like the time. And then I ate some rotten berries. Man, I had some strong gases eking out of my butt that day.
Why are you following me?
I'll tell you why. 'Cause I'm all alone. There's no one here beside me. My problems have all gone. There's no one to deride me. But you gotta have friends.
Stop singing!
Jawheads, I want you to do me a favor. Pull your phone out of your pocket and go to your YouTube app. Search for the Cinemajaw channel and hit subscribe. Really, please do it right now. This will do two things. One, it helps us reach more people. We want to spread the good word about film, and you clicking subscribe really helps us do that. And two, it costs you nothing. That's right. Subscribing to Cinemajaw on YouTube is fun and it's free. Think of it as a donation that doesn't even cost you anything. Even if you just listen to the podcast and never really watch the videos, you subscribing on YouTube helps us make the podcast better too. But please check out a few videos while you're there. We think they're pretty good. So right now, while you're listening, before you forget, take your phone out. It shouldn't even interrupt the show. And go to YouTube, search Cinemajaw, and hit subscribe. And thank you so much.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with Angie Gaffney. Matt, Angie mentioned that she has a background in haunted houses.
Yeah. Did you see my ears just prick up?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I know you have a question for Angie.
Well, yeah, but I was going to ask, do you know John LaFlamboy and the guys over at like Hell's Gate and the Statesville Haunted Prison? Any of those peeps?
No, my foray... and your jaw is just like your ears immediately perk back down. But,
no.
Yeah, my foray into haunted houses, I ran, God, when was it? It must have been summer of 2010, 2011. I ran Chicago Tribune's haunted house.
Okay.
For a while. It was bad. They brought me in at the last minute, but it was Joe. And prior to that, I did a haunted house in Boulder. I went to the haunted house conference with Leonard Pickle and Houston, did the whole haunted house groupie thing as a 16-year-old.
Sounds fun.
It was something, that's for sure.
A fellow haunted house alumni here. So nice to have you.
Yeah, so glad to be here.
Again, for the Jawheads who want to maybe get some coaching, maybe find a producer, have questions for you, where should we send them online, Angie?
AngieGaffney.com. Angie Gaffney with an F as in Frank. Coaching. I talk to filmmakers for my job through Independent Film Alliance. There's also a membership through that it's a nonprofit organization, and you can become a member and learn a lot about filmmaking, come to events. We had George Tillman and Peter Serif, Little Miss Sunshine, The Hate You Give. We have a lot of really cool guests come in. So yeah, I'm happy to be of service for all of your movie questions and needs.
Do it, Jawheads.
Absolutely. Matt, before we get to trivia and before we get to Hollywood headlines, we threw a few items into that fish tank, and I know Phil wants to swim up to the top, so let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! Wake up!
No, Pat, it's a giant
glass bowl. Hey, there's some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yes, thank you so much for letting me out. We do have a few items in here, but before we do, I must shout out Angie for what is probably the most relatable slice of life that I've ever had with any Cinemajaw guest in the specific phrase F as in Frank, and having that not be confused with the letter S. I didn't realize that was a thing that anyone other than my family had to do with, and that there's people who... I cannot tell you how many times I've been on the phone and being called Sujawara. I've had that exact conversation before. It's very surreal.
Kindred souls, my pleasure to hear it.
Truly. So our first question: who directed Red Sparrow? Angie had said that was Francis Lawrence from I Am Legend and Hunger Games, amongst other films, of course. But truly, I mean, he has a good catalog. He's clearly talented, so if anyone was to redo a film and be able to do it better, it seems like it would be him. Where is Cats streaming? The blanket answer that I have is just one of the 18,000 HBOs. Well, yes, don't bother. At least not until they get the butthole cut, which I am glad that we brought this up. It seems like such a I disagree. I think that would absolutely, yes. That would take so much to. I could make a comment that I think would end up biting me in the ass later, but I won't.
No pun intended.
Yeah, we can just digitally remove your ass later, so you'll be fine.
Yeah. Then I made no comments about Jason Derulo's butthole, and I'm fine. The last one is who plays the old guy in Prometheus. This is wild to me because I actually had to look up who it was, and I remember seeing the character like, oh yeah, that guy, and that was Guy Pearce.
Right.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
Never knew that. So I remember seeing the guy, but that is not Guy Pearce.
That's the thing. It's really bad makeup in an otherwise amazingly impeccable sci-fi special effects spectacle, right? So why not just cast an old guy? I don't know. Like, what did Guy Pearce bring to that role?
That is a good point.
Interesting. But now that you say it, I remember it being Guy Pearce. It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Was that everything in there, Phil?
That's all we got in here.
All right. Jump back in that fish tank.
You bet.
Phil jumps back into the fish tank, even though we're doing some Hollywood headlines. So he's right back here with some Hollywood headlines.
Yes. This one, so we all know me as an animation fan. Our first one for the night, or day, I guess, depending on when you listen. Two big Disney films, Black Widow and Cruella, are going to debut on Disney Plus premiere and in theaters the same day. I know we were talking about the Paramount Plus stuff a few weeks ago. And this just, I think, harken back to that. Cruella coming out May 28th. And Black Widow is going to be July 9th. It got pushed back a little bit.
So, Matt, this is big news. Disney been trying this Disney Plus premiere and in theaters the same day with a little bit smaller movies such as Raya. Not that Raya's small, but Raya and the Last Dragon and Mulan, but is compared to these tent poles, this big one especially being Black Widow. Bad news for the movie theaters, I guess.
I disagree. I think that this is a very important thing to happen for accessibility, and who is able to... There are so many people who love films but don't have the opportunity in their schedules because of their work life, because of if they're raising young children, to make it to a movie theater during operating hours. And this is, as far as I'm concerned, a best of both worlds, where the people who do have the ability to see these movies in theater can do it, but then the people who have other obligations, who are otherwise largely, honestly, Black and brown communities who we claim are not people who are watching movies and not profitable, this gives them an ability to say, no, we want to see these, we can now, and then eventually these stories are going to become told because the only thing that speaks to these companies is money, is my thought.
I have one quick rebuttal to what you just said, because I was 100% nodding with you along the way. I don't know if truly accessibility into communities of color is top of their mind with this decision, because it still costs an extra $30, which granted for a family of 4 or 5 is still a lot cheaper than going to the movies. But that's on top of a subscription that's already expensive. So I think the economics need to be examined, but you're going in the right direction, because
timing alone and schedule availability is, I think even that is huge.
Right. And I've quoted Ava DuVernay, who said that like nobody saw her second movie, but everybody saw 13th because it was on Netflix. And that was huge. Everybody's got Netflix. I don't think everybody's got Disney Plus. So it may not be apples to apples there, but it's an interesting point. The other thing I wanted to say is there's always going to be people that love going to the theater. And I get yelled at on this podcast so much because I would maybe just like to have the option, So I think this is a good thing. Let's have options. The theaters aren't going to go away. People are going to still go to the record stores. People are still going to go to the movie theaters. We may see a change in the industry, but change is good. Options are good. That's what I have to say about it. Yeah, Angie, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's interesting because this is a strategy. It's called a day and date release, where you release in theaters, right, the same day you go to digital or video on demand. And it's long been employed by producers of independent film in my industry because the marketing budget is cheaper. Like if you're only marketing one major release, right? Instead of like, oh, you're marketing a release in the theater and then you're marketing a release 6 months later on Blu-ray or whatever it is, right? You're actually putting all of your marketing dollars into like one big kind of release or bang, and you tend to get more money for your buck. So that's how it works in indie. So it has me super curious if part of this is also not like, hey, a budgeting decision. Like, hey, we don't want to draw out the expense of marketing because traditionally marketing is at least the cost of the film. If you have $100 million film, you are going to spend roughly $100 million on marketing. So I get super curious about how like that side of their strategy plays into this from like a marketing saving, budget saving sort of standpoint. Not that they are hurting for cash right now, but that's where my mind goes.
It's going to be one to watch.
Yeah, it will be. It'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds. I know me and Matt were talking about it briefly just the other day, and I mean, I'm still always worried a little bit for the movie theaters themselves, even though I agree, Matt, they're not going to go anywhere soon, but it could eventually start to hurt the movie theaters, and you'll see less movie theaters if this continues, because obviously not as many people will be going to the theater. See what happens with this one. I, for one, would probably choose the movie theater as my choice to see the movie, but that's me, Yeah.
Options.
So that one was a very dense headline, and our next one absolutely equally carries just as much weight. I know for a fact. In the HBO Los Angeles Lakers show that's coming out, they casted Bo Burnham
as Larry Bird.
Yes, I apologize. As Larry Bird. Actually, which is a very fitting visually.
The director of 8th Grade, Bo Burnham?
Right.
And the YouTuber.
Yep. And he was also in Promising Young Woman, which you still got to catch up with, Matt.
I do. Is he that tall? I guess I'm not as familiar with him like physically.
Yeah, he's pretty tall. Can we throw that in a late jaw box, Phil? At the end of the show, you can let us know how tall Bo Burnham is.
I mean, if you're playing Larry Bird, you better be at least over 6'3", right?
I'll give you that. You got to at least be 6'3".
And then our last one for the night. We've had a lot of facts like this and headlines like this. The Last Starfighter may get a sequel. The screenwriter Gary Whitta has been working on a sequel to The Last Starfighter for a little while now. And there has been a sizzle reel that was revealed for the potential movie, like a pitch package.
Matt, we've
for The Last Starfighter 2.
We've talked about The Last Starfighter a couple of times on Cinemajaw. This was a VHS movie for me, a film that we had when I was just a youngster, and I'd watch it with my brother numerous times, The Last Starfighter. I never thought there would be a sequel. It seems like the film has actually been forgotten for a large part.
Gone but not forgotten. I'm on board for a sequel. Although I guess then he wouldn't have been the last starfighter in the first one.
Right. You got to go back and re-edit that to the second to last.
Yeah.
The only thing no, I might be wrong. I might be confusing this with a different one, but this is the one, I think, where the kid plays the arcade game and he gets recruited to...
Right.
You nailed it.
They don't make arcades anymore.
Yeah, it's Xbox Live, Phil. I mean, there's creative screenwriters on this, you know?
The top League of Legends players.
There you go.
Angie, did you ever see The Last Starfighter?
No, I did not.
Put it on your list.
Ooh,
it's better than Cats. It's better than Cats.
It's better than a lot of things. That's not saying much, yeah.
But I will put it on my list.
Were those all the headlines there, Phil?
That is. I did while we were looking it up, or while we were talking, look it up. Bo Burnham is 6'5", so very tall.
Still not Larry Bird tall, but yeah, that's tall.
Movie Magic will fix that. They'll fix it in post.
Sure.
Add a few inches in.
All right, Matt, we always like to play some trivia here on Cinemajaw, and it's that time. Matt doesn't even know who Lucas Hedges is, so this is going to be very interesting. There's a new movie out April 2nd entitled The French Exit. It stars Michelle Pfeiffer and Lucas Hedges. I've seen this film. It's whimsical, and I wish I could say better things. Michelle Pfeiffer pours in a great performance, but the movie comes up a little bit short. If you see it, shoot me a tweet at Rye the Movie Guy. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I think it came up a little short. 2 Jaws for The French Exit. In honor of that, we're playing Michelle Pfeiffer, Lucas Hedges movie trivia. Angie, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first or let Matt go first. There are steals, and if you get caught up on a question, you get one rescue me, Ryan. I have clues to all the questions. And they start off easy, Angie.
Okay, I'll go first.
All right. Question number 1, Pfeiffer Hedges movie trivia. Angie, in Batman Returns, Michelle Pfeiffer played Catwoman. Who played the Penguin?
Oh, shit.
Who played the Penguin in Batman Returns?
The Penguin?
Definitely not as tall as Bo Burnham.
Is that the hint?
That's a free hint from me.
Rye, what do you got? I'll take one.
Okay. Your clue is Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, Danny.
Yep.
Danny.
Danny.
Something Loca.
Vito?
Danny DeVito.
We'll give her to her. Danny DeVito. She's got it.
DeVito, shit.
You had it.
Put me on the spot.
Close enough. 1-0, Angie. Question 2 over to Matt K. Matt, in 2017, Michelle Pfeiffer was seen with Johnny Depp and Daisy Ridley in this remake of an Agatha Christie film. Name it.
Was it Murder on the Orient Express?
That is correct. 1-1. He has tied it up. Question 3, back over to Angie. Lucas Hedges played Casey Affleck's nephew in the 2016 film that won Casey Affleck the Oscar. Name the movie.
Manchester by the Sea.
That is correct. Wow, she comes out firing now. 2-1, Angie. Question 4 over to Matt K. Matt, Michelle Pfeiffer has made one movie with Sean Penn. Dakota Fanning also appeared in this 2001 film. Name it.
2001, huh? Sean Penn, Dakota Fanning. Oh, Mystic River?
That is incorrect.
Oh, bummer.
Michelle Pfeiffer, Sean Penn, Dakota Fanning. Any guess, Angie?
Is it something Sam?
We're going to give that to her. I Am Sam.
Nicely done.
Yes. 3-1, Angie. Question 5 is over to her. Lucas Hedges appears in the 2017 film Lady Bird. Which actress played Lady Bird?
Saoirse Ronan.
Wow. On fire at this point. 4-1, Angie.
You threw me off when you didn't know Danny DeVito, and then you just been. You know
that's the trick.
Yeah.
Question 6 over to Matt K. Matt, Lucas Hedges appears in the skateboard movie mid-90s.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
which ended up being the directorial debut of this actor.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to get this mixed up with Seth Rogen. It's not Seth Rogen. It's the guy from, okay, you know what? Rescue Me, Ryan.
Whoa, Rescue Me, Ryan. Your clue is super bad.
Yeah, I know who it is. I mean, Wolf of Wall Street, super bad.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's
I know.
The guy.
Give me his initials. Oh man, Jonah Hill.
There you go. 4-2. You're still in it, Matt. 2 questions left. Question 7, though, is over to Angie. Michelle Pfifer appears in one Darren Aronofsky directed film. It came out in 2017. Name the film.
Mother.
Oh, man. Wow. You're right. She threw us off with it, not knowing the Danny DeVito, and then just stomped you, Matt K.
Yeah.
5-1, Angie. It's all over at this point. Question 8 is over to Matt K. Right. Lucas Hedges starred in Boy Erased in 2018.
Yeah.
In the film, Nicole Kidman plays his mother, but who plays his father in the movie?
Steve Carell.
Incorrect. Angie, any guess on that one?
Oh, I'm thinking a Beautiful Boy.
You were thinking a Beautiful Boy and Timothy Chalamet. Yeah, this is Boy Erased. Nicole Kidman is mom. Who played his dad?
Was it Russell Crowe?
That is correct.
Wow.
That is correct. 7-1, Angie. It is all over. A slaughter.
See, I told you, Angie. Never underestimate me.
If it came down to a tie, we call it a jawbreaker, Angie. This question would have been over to you. Better movie, Grease or Grease 2?
Grease.
Incorrect. Oh. It is Grease 2. It is Grease 2, believe it or not. The real jawbreaker is this. Age of Jonah Hill, closest to. Matt, you got to guess on how old Jonah Hill is.
I think he is in his early 30s. I will say, well, maybe mid 34.
Lock him in at 34. Angie, do you got to guess on how old Jonah Hill is?
I think he's 36.
Give that to Angie. 37 for Jonah Hill.
Wow.
37.
Wow. I thought he's way younger. Okay.
He's slowly getting up there. But he's been around for a long time.
He has been around for a while.
Yeah.
When did Superbad come out? What year was that?
2008.
Jeez, man.
13 years.
Keeps on going, man. Just keeps on going.
Yeah. Brings us to the end of a very fun Jaw. And first and foremost, we got to thank Angie for coming on. Thank you and great meeting you.
I'm so happy to have been here. Lovely to meet you all. And Phil, thanks for the partnership with F's in our names.
Truly, we're so in sync. Your lipstick matches my nail polish.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Matt, we also got to thank our sponsors.
Yeah, thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op who help us get great sponsors like that.
If you would like to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And please, while you're at it, click subscribe. One extra button helps us out tremendously.
Until next week, I'm Ryan the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt K.
And keep on jawing about the movies.